Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Kristi Justice. Some of you out there know me. A lot of you don't. I'm one of these evil federal government people, but but luckily, all of our programs are voluntary, so we're not regulatory at all. I'm with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. We're part of USDA. If you've ever heard of the Soil Conservation Service, or SCS, that's who we used to be, but we had a name change. Just to let you know, I don't follow slides real well. I tend to ad-lib a little bit, but I do have some copies, not near enough. I didn't know we were going to have quite this many people here. But you can also contact me through email because there's a little bit of information, but I did bring some printouts. Our slogan is helping people help the land. Again, we're a voluntary agency. We have cost share programs. We also do what we call CTA, or Conservation Technical Assistance. So just because you don't either qualify for a cost share program or you don't rank for a cost share program, we'll get into that a little bit later, we still can come out and just help you by looking at soils. We can help you take soil samples. We can develop maps for your property, soils maps, location maps. We can help you with designs for irrigation systems, a number of things. So that's all conservation technical assistance. That's all free. And we don't charge or anything for that because, of course, taxpayers' money runs our agency. But again, we are voluntary. Some of the main programs that we have here in New Mexico, we have CSP, or the Conservation Stewardship Program, Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program, or WIP, and the big one that we really deal with here in Doña Ana County is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP. That's the one I'm going to spend more time on. You may most certainly find out more about different programs. There's a lot more than this, but these are some of the main ones that we deal with here. And you can visit the website. It's a long website, but you can always just Google NRCS or whatever search engine you're in, look up NRCS, and it'll take you straight to the national webpage, or you can look up New Mexico NRCS, and it'll give you our information and get you to our website. First of all, the Conservation Stewardship Program. This used to be called the Conservation Security Program. They've changed it up, given it the same acronym. It's called CSP. This is really for farmers, ranchers that already have a lot of their system improvements in place, and now they just need to tweak their system a little bit to improve their efficiencies or their management level. This one is based on acres. It does pay by the acre, and it's just to put in an activity or an enhancement. For an example, just because ranches tend to do a lot with CSP, if you had all your livestock pipelines in, your solar panels, all these kind of things, but back when this first came out, you needed to put wildlife-friendly escape ramps in your troughs. That was something that was an enhancement to your system, just to give you an idea. It could also be a crop rotation that you're putting in. That would be something that would qualify through CSP. This is an ever-changing program, and so I'm not getting into it a lot today. It changes every time. We just finished up with a sign-up period, and it has multiple sign-up periods through the year. Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program, we do have a few applications with this program. This one you have to compete throughout the entire state. This is looking at basically wildlife habitat. So this a lot, again, is normally on ranches. We do see it on some farms, especially up in the Clovis Portales area. Sometimes they'll put their corners off the center pivots into wildlife because they'll put it into native grasses or something. It's kind of twofold. It provides pheasant cover and bird cover, wildlife cover, but it also keeps it from blowing up there, because if those corners are just bare and nothing on there, they can blow. And as I know, because I'm up from around that area in the Texas Panhandle, the wind blows all the time and the soil hits you in the face. So those are things you want to look out for. Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or what we call EQIP. This is our bread and butter. This is what people come into our office, and the biggest thing I hear, if it's someone I don't know, they come in and go, I want to apply for that grant for a concrete line ditch or an irrigation pipeline. just so that you know, it's not a grant. The EQIP program is actually a cost share program. So anything that you receive, just so you know, it is taxable, but work with your accountant. It's farm income that's coming in. But this program's whole goal is to get conservation on the ground. So when we're working with farmers, ranchers, dairymen, dairywomen, whomever we're working with, we try to develop a conservation plan. So we're looking at the whole operation, coming out and figuring out what kind of irrigation system you have now, if we're talking about a farm, and where we can go and get a more efficient system with this. So in doing that, for your conservation plan, we may recommend a new concrete line ditch if you've got a dirt ditch or an old broken concrete one that you're having to fix every other day, or maybe going into irrigation pipeline, maybe even drip irrigation. These are things that we can help you with, just technically help you with the designs, and then EQIP comes in and helps do that by providing a little bit of assistance, monetary assistance, to get that on the ground. The stuff's not cheap to do. So this is what EQIP is about. It's a way to get these things on the ground. Some of the things that we do put in, I mentioned slightly, we do help with concrete line ditches. We help with irrigation pipeline, alfalfa valves, high flow turnouts, drip systems, a number of things that can go in. Bad thing is, this whole program has been about pumps and wells. We don't help pay to put in irrigation wells. But they have, and historically we haven't paid for irrigation pumps either. But now we have this new energy initiative coming in. And with the energy initiative, we're starting to go more towards these new pumps that are coming in because they require less electricity, or maybe they're taking diesel out of the picture because you're moving towards a different type of fuel source. The other thing, we are now, if you're going from a surface system into a subsurface system, so if you're going from a flood with a ditch and going into a drip system, we can pay for the pump at that point if it's required for the drip system. So that's something new that we're doing here in New Mexico. And that is coming down from national, but our state office has determined that that's when we would help pay with a pump, is if you're transferring from surface to subsurface systems. We do have special initiatives through EQIP. We have organic, so if you're interested in organic or you're transitioning into organic or already organic farmer, this is a program. It's limited though. You only have $20,000 for an annual payment and can only receive $80,000 over 6 years for this program, whereas EQIP, you can have a contract up to $150,000 without us even having to get approval from the state office or anything. Seasonal high tunnel is another one. Hoop houses, if that makes a little more sense. This is a new initiative that came out of Washington, and this is for the hoop houses that you go in. It's supposed to extend your growing season. This is more of a test initiative, so there is data that has to be submitted if you received a contract to put one of these in. The limit is 5% of an acre, or 2178 square feet. They also have the new initiative on farm energy. These are all parts of EQIP. And with this one, it's ways to identify energy on your farm, or ways to save energy, and it helps with basically energy audits. These are normally for bigger operations. You would see these a lot of times. I'm going to pick on dairies, but sometimes the dairies would be doing these because, let's face it, they have a lot of things going on, 24-hour operation between milking barns, the lighting, everything else that's out there. There's a lot of energy going in and a lot of money that they're having to expend for those operations. For eligibility, I just want to touch on this just a little bit, and then I'll be happy to answer more questions about EQIP and talk about it a little bit more of how it works. But producer eligibility, you do have to be an ag producer, and the biggest thing with that is that you have $1,000 of production from your farm or your ranching operation, but your farms. you have control of the land for the term of a contract. A contract, an EQIP contract, is normally 2 years. That's what we try to limit it to. They can be up to 5 years. We really try not to do that because a cost share, this is again a cost share program, we pay a certain amount per practice. So like for a concrete line ditch, I think we're paying $13.58 right now, or $13.28 right now per foot. So if we're paying that this year and you've got a contract, and if we scheduled that out for 5 years, we all know what's going on right now. Prices are going up every day. I pass by Sam's every day and I see the gas and it goes up every day. So just last week, I think it went up 12 cents within 1 week. Same thing's happening with PVC, with your irrigation pipe, the steel, concrete, everything's going up. So you're locked into that price for the year of your contract. If we schedule too far out, you're going to be stuck with old prices and everything else is going up. So the cost share would be down here at $13 and you may be paying, $40 a foot. So that's where that comes in, okay? Also, so you have to have control of the land. We do ask to see a warranty deed or a lease, and that's just so that we know you have signature authority and that you can actually say, yes, I can put something on this land. I have control of the land. Also, there's a payment limitation of $300,000 over a 6-year period. That 6 years is coming from the Farm Bill. We work under the guise of the Farm Bill that's passed through Congress. And also for producer eligibility, there's an average adjusted gross income eligibility. Basically what it boils down to is if you make over $1 million off of your non-farm income, so if you're farming and you also have a side business and you make over $1 million, then 2/3 needs to be from farming. And that's the big thing there. Land eligibility just has to be ag land. So it can be crop land, pasture land, you be doing hay, it can be ranch land, anything, as long as it is ag land. And we don't discriminate with acres. I have put a concrete line ditch on 1 acre before for a pecan orchard. So you can have 1,000 acres or 2 acres. We don't discriminate against land size. Also has to be privately owned. We don't normally deal with state land or private land. There are exceptions. If you have a sign-off from state land and they approve irrigation improvements going on there and we have a letter from them, we usually can work on state land. BLM, that's usually another issue, but that's dealing with ranches more than it is ever with the farm. Applicant must have permission of the landowner. That's if you're leasing the land. We would just need to have that permission. And we just have to identify resource concerns. Our biggest resource concern here is water quantity. Can't get enough water out on the field. And so that's what we're looking at and trying to help you do and get it out there a little bit quicker and more efficiently and be able to improve your production. This is the website that we have. You can look for more information. If you want to stop by the office, we're located on Tell Shore, 2507 North Tell Shore. We're south of Sam's, right across from Uno's. We're in the Curry Clock Tower little complex right there. We're in the South Floor building on there. We're first office on the right. And you can pop in. You can also give us a call. The phone number is 522-8775, extension 3. Because sometimes, a lot of times we're out in the field, so we may not be in the office. But to just clarify a little bit of what we do, again, the way the cost share programs work, we help you go out, we'll do surveys, we'll let's say we're doing a survey for a concrete line ditch. You've got an old ditch and you're wanting to improve that. We will go out, use our survey equipment, go out and talk with you first of all and see what you're wanting to do. We can get a field survey. We're going to find the high water mark on that ditch, figure out what kind of flow rate you're getting right now. And then we're going to get a size of the field, your length of run, figure out what type of soil is out there because each soil has its own intake rate when you're talking about irrigation. be able to go out there and figure out what your efficiency is now and what we're going to go to. Sometimes it can just be a matter of reducing that size of your width on your berms that are out in your field, because if you can reduce that border width, you can get that water down to the end of the field a little bit quicker. You may have to run different sections, do maybe two turnouts on a ditch at a time, whereas on another field you might be able to be running 3 or 4 per berm. Or per border. It depends on the system, the soil, and what kind of flow you've got. We can then come in and run one of the programs that we like to run is surface. It can give you an idea of what flow you need to meet a certain efficiency or what timing you're looking for to get that water down the end of the field. That's something we're going to be providing to be able to figure these things out. You're talking about what you need for a well today. That is something that we can help you go in and do, is figure out, well, this would be your optimum flow for your field, and get you an idea of what you're needing to have out there. So a little bit short, but it's more of a kind of a question thing. If you've got information you're wanting to find out, what we can help you with. Another thing that we can show you how to do, you can do what Dr. Samani's talking about, where you go out and actually get soil and dry it and figure out how much moisture was in your soil. There's another kind of little cheat way. It's pretty simple. It's called the feel and appearance method, and this is something that we can help you with. It's not as accurate, of course, but it is a way to kind of go out on your field, get your soil. We can help you learn how to texture your own soil, figure out if you have a sandy clay loam, whatever you have out there. Then as you make it into a ball, you can kind of get an idea if you're at field capacity, if you're really dry, if it's getting time to irrigate or not. Those are the kind of things we can help with. Those are also, I'm going to do a little plug and a little advertisement. We're going to be having a field day out with Gerardo actually next Wednesday down at Triple D Farms, and I've got flyers on that as well. We're going to be talking about how to measure your soil moisture, how we develop conservation plans, and how we can help you and how you can help us, and what we can possibly do for you. And we're going to be kind of going through the steps of a conservation plan and soil quality and some measuring soil moisture content. We're going to be having demonstrations, and luckily we have Triple D letting us be out at their farm, and we're going to be doing that next Wednesday. So,
what kind of a system do you have on that farm?
I'm sorry?
What kind of a system do you have on that farm?
On that farm, the farm that we're going to be visiting, we haven't worked on. Some of the other farms of the operation, we've actually gone in and we did a concrete line ditch. For example, if you don't mind me talking about it, we'd been working with, before Gerardo came on, the previous manager, and the farm kind of changed hands just a little bit. But basically, this farm had really long runs. Pecan orchard had a little bit of cover in it, and the runs were, oh goodness, I'm going to say over 1,000 feet. So you had a run on this old ditch that ran across the north side of the field. We're irrigating down towards the south, over 1,000 feet long. That's a long run when you're talking about flood irrigation. Talk about getting a lot of deep percolation, like what Dr. Samani's talking about. You get a lot of lost groundwater at the beginning of your field, and in the end you can't even get the water down there. So you can either try to shorten your border width, which when you're talking about a 1,000-foot run, you may not be having a very, very wide border, and then you're not being able to, it's taking you a really long time to be able to irrigate. So instead, what we did on this one is we came out across that north end of the field. This was an old, busted-up concrete ditch. We replaced half of that concrete ditch, and then we cut down the middle of the field. And then what we did, we developed a whole new system coming down the middle of that field, and then started watering off the ditch with high-flow turnouts running to the east and to the west. So now we have a ditch that runs through the middle. We've cut our runs down to hardly anything. They're what now? Probably about 300 now. So now we have a run of 300 feet. We can have a wider border. You've got a high-flow turnout, which, does everybody know what that is? for most of you. You'll see them up and down the valley. They're those big concrete little angled areas that come out and they have the cinder blocks in the middle. Have y'all seen those? That's we call it a high flow turnout. And what that is, it's made really for sandier soils. And they will work on clay soils, but they were brought in for sandy soils because the whole idea is to get a large volume of water out at one time so that we can get it to the end of that field. Because the sandier your soil is, the more you're going to lose at the beginning of your field to deep percolation and less is getting across the field. So if we can increase our volume and be able to spread it out across the field, we get more of an even distribution. We're getting water to the end of the field and we're not losing so much at the beginning of the field. And that's really important when you're sitting there pumping water because it is not cheap to pump, as you all know. So that's what we're doing. So what we did is we cut a run from 1,000 feet to 300 and cut the irrigation time.
We're irrigating in about 27% less of the time.
Right.
And with like 50% less of water.
That's great.
So it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So that was one example, and that's what they did. Still having a little bit of issues on the farm, down on another field that we didn't put the irrigation on, and that's because it's a really tight clay soil down there, and difference with that is you get a lot of ponding and you can have choking out on the roots so they're not getting as much air in there. You can get compaction. You got to develop that organic matter in there. Those are things we're trying to help with. The timing is hard when you're talking about flood irrigation, sometimes establishing a cover crop in a really tight soil. And so those are things that we're looking at and trying to work with. Not everyone likes cover crop either, but it is an option, especially in smaller trees. Some people are using bearded wheat. When you've got smaller trees or alfalfa, you want to be careful with roots around your trees, of course. I've got one orchard that I've worked with that was planted in the early 70s, and they have cover in there. They actually don't have to have they get away with a little bit less irrigation. They're in chaparral, so they're always on wells. But he doesn't have to irrigate quite as much because he's got more cover on the ground. That reduces your evapotranspiration, or your transpiration. Evaporation, sorry. My old professors would thump me on the head for that. But it reduces your evaporation because you have cover. Now, yeah, there's a little bit more competition. You've got another plant taking up water. But those plants are producing more roots in that soil, improving the soil quality. You've got more soil organic matter in there, better infiltration, and better holding of the water in the soil. So those are some of the things we try to pull out with these programs. We can even pay for cover crop. We can pay for irrigation water management. Now, that one, I don't push a lot for payment, I'm going to be honest with you, because you've got to turn in a lot of records, and you guys are already having to keep up with enough paperwork. But it is an option, especially if you're not already doing that. It's trying to meet the consumptive use of the crop and then also get the proper irrigation out there. In this valley, there's a lot of deficit irrigation going on. Most people aren't actually reaching that value when we've actually looked at the records being turned in with the systems. Let me check time here. So we're almost out of time. Questions? Yes, sir.
Could I have your phone number again?
Yes, sir. It's 522-8775, extension 3. My personal extension is 118, but 3 gets you to the office. I'm just the soil conservationist in there. We'll also have a technician. Right now, we're in between technicians. Our technician just moved closer to his home where he's got ranching up there. So he moved to Alamogordo, so we have an opening in our office right now. And we also have Adrian Tafoya. He's what they call the district conservationist. He's my boss. He's in there. He's really good with irrigation pipeline designs and with designs. And of course, our technician will be too. I work more on the soil side, but do help with the irrigation systems. Yes, sir.
Can I have your phone number again, please?
Yes, 522-8775, extension 3. And I do have some business cards up here as well. Does anybody have any questions on how the cost share programs work? Or if you're interested in those, I can answer those questions. I'm not going to lie to you. We're federal, so there's some paperwork at the beginning. You can ask some of these guys that have worked with us before. And then if you ever go into the application process, there's what we call an appendix. Have some coffee next to you before you sign off on it. It's long. You can ask Robert and Lynn. It's got some legal speak in there. A lot of it is just talking about you need to turn in this paperwork and this paperwork for just a gross income and those kind of things. But yeah.
Is that on your website?
The application information? There is an application on the website. Right now, just so that you know, we just finished up with the 2012 application period. The deadline was January 6th. You can apply now for what would be 2013. But with that, it's going to change, so I would tell you to wait a little bit to make that appendix. They always say it's going to stay the same. It never does. They change a paragraph or two, and then you have to re-sign. But I still would encourage you to call us because we can start doing all the other stuff. We can get your surveys done. We can get all the planning done, and then you can even get bids from contractors so you have an idea of what your out-of-pocket's going to be on a contract. Yes?
I was there the other day.
Yes, sir.
You said you had a lot of farms to go do, so what is a time frame that we would be able to get you out? Because everything that you just talked about, we talked about too.
Right.
And we do want you out there pretty bad.
Exactly. We're looking at, we've got to finish up all of our ranking for this 2012 on February 24th. So we have to have all those finished. I had ranked but we had 32 applications this last year. Ranking involves going out to the farms, doing initial inventories, surveys if need be, or going out even with a wheel or just getting an idea of what's out there. A lot of them we try to survey and start developing the irrigation system so we can have an exact cost estimate. Out of the 32, I had all but about 4 done on Friday. So after the 24th, probably. We'll try to get out there before then. We also have this field day next week, so I apologize. We're just a little swamped right now, but we will be coming out in the next, give us a couple of weeks, and then we'll be coming out. So, yeah.
We'll look at March.
Yeah, exactly. And if need be, call me and go, Kristi, where are you? So you can do that too. Anybody else? So, thank you.